you know, dialogue in public, to expose clearly the situation, the success and the failures, the moment of pessimism and time of optimism and so on. We have to share idea. And to share idea, it's not to share a belief. It's to share sometimes very opposite positions. And to try to find not the middle, not the medium, but to try to do the best with this with the contradiction inherent at each action. It's impossible to, if there is no contradiction, if there is no controversy, you are in a unique thought. You know what I mean? Pensée unique. Mm-hmm. And it's impossible, because when you are stirring, you are at the same time stirring, tossing, and so on. You know, it's fundamental. But when you are acting, you have to come back to thinking and then to stir too. And without controversy, it's not healthy. How to provoke this controversy? It's not a fight controversy. It's a way to confront ideas, proposal, project, to be able to build, for example, the best city. What does it mean to have a good city? It means nothing, you know, because the good for you is not the good for me, it's not the good for you, maybe. But when we are trying to expose, to plan, to draw our dreams and to try to go from the dream to the reality, we have a lot of controversy with the action, because action is a reduction of thinking, and thinking is a reduction of stirring. And a good controversy is to be able to talk first, and also through art, through theater, through film, through things like that. I think there is a lot of films to do in Calgary. I would like to be Calgarian to do some films here, you know, because it's a way to provoke. But it's healthy to provoke, you know. It's a mature society which is able to be provoked. I mean, controversy is healthy on the way of the truth. You know, it's not, there is many ways to do that. If there is no controversy, it's always a little bit suspicious when there is unanimity, you know. Yeah. So, it's not rich.
I was going to say that it's not easy to sense if you're being controversial in this city. I think this city, Calgary, and you've been around, and maybe other cities are like this, but you know, you kind of really have to get outrageous in order for Calgarians to sense that there's any kind of controversy going on. It's funny that way. That's been my experience anyway. And so, you know, I mean, you go around, you see lots of different cities. You know the culture of Canada probably better than anyone else does. But I don't think that Calgary has first of all, it doesn't have much of a history, but it doesn't have a history of thinking much before it acts, right? So, no. And you know, that's just the energy of the place. And I wish it was possible for us to have a society in Calgary where it was acceptable to have a differing point of view from the status quo. The status quo in this province is by and large, it's a dynasty. You know, we've had the same conservative government for a very, very long time. And people tend to vote as though it's a horse race. You know, they want to vote for the winner. And so that doesn't make for a lot of controversy.
He's not allowed to comment on politics.
That's not a question.
Steer away from that.
That's not a question. But you can answer that question, I bet.
Well, you know, but Michael, it's odd to me that you would say that Calgary acts and doesn't think, because to be quite honest with you, now my world is, like all of our worlds, quite narrow in terms of my world of experience. But in terms of cultural development and the things that go into potentially making Calgary the next, whatever the next phase is, and I agree it's a great city right now. I'm not saying it isn't, but everywhere I go, for over 3 years now, the conversations are always about what shall we do to make it, and the phrase is always the next level.
Yeah.
Whatever the next level. And so it's odd for me to hear you say that, because my experience is there's a lot of conversation, a lot of good intuition about what should be done, but it may not be coming crystallized in terms of what is the action we should do. And I'll use my own particular field. I mean, like, I've heard before I moved here that there should be an institution for contemporary art in Calgary because every great city's got that and other things. So, I think we got to sort of get that. But do we have the capability to do those things now? And if we do have the capability to do those things, let's do those things.
Well, Lance, would you mind if I ask Lance a question? Well, it's interesting that you've only been here for 3 years. I mean, do you think we value those things in the time that you've been here? Do you think that we value those things?
Which things?
Having an Institute for Contemporary Art.
I do. And
globally, do you think we do?
Well, it's always hard to say globally. I mean, to be honest, when we had so many people show up for the Stirring Culture 1 series, I thought, what is that about? Why did 5,000 people show up? Why are these people here tonight? I mean, there's something going on, and it is idiosyncratic. It's a perception. I can't prove it. But it seems to me, but I see it at the provincial level too. I hear it with the provincial politicians. People have a strong sense of need to develop that next vision step and then implement that, I think. This is my perception.
Your Excellency, you've seen the evolution of culture in Montreal. I know that you said you made a comparison between Calgary now and Montreal when you first moved there. I heard that through one of your staff. And maybe you could talk about that a little bit, what you saw there and what comparisons you can make between what went on in Montreal in those days versus what you see here.
It is not the same context, not at all. And if I could express that in French, we'll translate because to be more precise. Montréal est un tissu de contradictions. C'est un tissu de contradictions à cause de son histoire, à cause de l'histoire du Québec, et aussi à cause de la composition démographique de la ville, si on parle de Montréal. Montréal est à l'intérieur d'une histoire qui est celle du Québec, qui est aussi l'histoire d'un pays confronté à son identité, à sa quête d'identité, au maintien de son identité et au nationalisme. C'est un contexte différent de l'Alberta déjà. C'est un contexte différent de Calgary.
Montreal is a contradiction in its very fabric because of Montreal's history, because of the history of Quebec, because of its demographic makeup. And Montreal's history is that of Quebec, of a country confronted with its identity, confronted with maintaining its identity, confronted with nationalism, and that is not at all what we see in Alberta and in Calgary.
And what do you see?
I want to go further. These contradictions at the same time are a natural field for controversies, It's completely different, It's a controversy, it is the essence of Montreal. And also it is the essence of Quebec too, It means it's not necessarily a more comfortable situation, it's very uncomfortable because there is some controversy which are dead ends, But at the same time, the evolution of Montreal, the progress the last 30 years, because I was part of that, I think part of the culture, part of and the development of culture too, it is based on this reality, It's completely different in Calgary, It's completely different. The story is not the same. And there is not the same problem with the two languages also. It's different. So I could say it was not easier to develop spirit of culture in Montreal. There is culture, but this culture is very close to a certain point of view.